340-7091 or 5starsoap.com for all your cleaning needs.
He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
It is the 9th day of February 2009. For the next 51 minutes, we are joined by Dr. Jerome Corsi. Every book he's written that I know of has been a New York Times bestseller, many of them #1 New York Times bestseller, like The Late Great USA. And that book, by the way, covers all the secret documents that he and others had to sue to get, of how they were covertly setting up a North American Union, how they planned to implode the economy by design. Now the Wall Street Journal, now the New York Times, they're all saying, yes, world government's the answer. Yes, the New World Order's real. Yes, Northcom's running everything. The whole police state that Bush set up, and he was just a puppet, is now being expanded by Obama. And Dr. Corsi came out and exposed Bush for that. He was called a right-wing pundit because he was the guy that wrote the Swift Boat book that was accurate on Kerry. His book on Obama, they did a national hoax and said it wasn't accurate. I read the book. I've been doing research on Obama now intensely for 8 months. It's worse than what Dr. Corsi said in that book. So they basically try to discredit him there, but now the proof is in the pudding. Obama's gone back on every promise. Obama, it is worse than I even thought it could have possibly been. So, but before we get into Obama with Dr. Corsi, he's got a financial a background degree from Harvard in this. I want to get into the economy, what's currently happening with the New World Order. What is it like to be proven totally right, to have FBI training manuals say you're a terrorist? If you talk about a New World Order, it doesn't exist. Now it's in the Financial Times of London, Newsweek. A global bank will pay carbon taxes to. I mean, it's all happening now to write a book that was nationally demonized and attacked and they said wasn't real. And now everything in the book has come true. By the way, we have it available at Infowars.com. The Late Great USA, very well done, New York Times bestseller. He, of course, wrote Obama Nation, a #1 New York Times bestseller. And he is Dr. Jerome Corsi. Dr. Corsi, good to have you back with us.
Hi, Alex. It's great to be with you. And I apologize for the cell phone, but I'm driving into New York City right now for some meetings. We're just about to get close to the Hudson. We're going to go across on the Holland Tunnel today. So I'll be able to be with you through the Holland Tunnel. It's all wired for cell phones, but I just want to let you know what I was up to.
Okay, good. And I didn't double check with my producer. How long do we have you?
Well, we'll go as long as we can, but we'll certainly get a half an hour, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, let's go to about 40 after. Okay, let's move quick then. Vindicated in spades, Dr. Jerome Corsi. Let's get into the economy first, and why are they openly announcing world government?
Well, it's amazing. You're right, Alex. When I wrote The Late Great USA, and it was published in 2007, it was roundly, everybody said, oh, there's no plan for North American Union. But today, I think now we've even got some of the major think tanks. You've got the Hudson Institute out. You've got others saying, yes, there was a plan to create North American integration. And in fact, it was slowed down by the fact that we exposed it. Simon & Schuster just published a paperback. It'll be out in a week. We have to get you some copies so they're available on your site. The Late Great USA, and I wrote a new epilogue to it. And the key thesis of the epilogue is that exposure, like you do on your show, the light of day, is the one thing that the global elite pushing for integration of economies and integration of governments can't stand. Because when the people realize, some of these economic crises have been created or certainly are manipulated to say we need more free trade and, more governmental structures that are regional or international in nature, I think then it becomes apparent, and the politicians like George Bush backed away, as did Stephen Harper at the end of George Bush's administration. They don't even have a new Security and Prosperity Partnership meeting scheduled that I can find.
But Obama has said,
FCP website.
But Obama has said he's going to continue it and take the Trans-Texas Corridor. They claim they canceled it a month ago because of public pressure, but then in the same article said we're just breaking the whole thing into subparts. We're just not going to call it that. So the agenda continues. They're now just being more covert.
Well, that's right. What happens, Alex, is they get a public relations makeover. So the Trans-Texas Corridor is an excellent article, an excellent example. I wrote about that in WorldNet Daily. Governor Perry says, no, the Trans-Texas Corridor project is dead. They say, well, what about the agreements you signed with Sintra in Spain to build this Trans-Texas Corridor 35, 4 football fields wide highway parallel to Interstate 35? And Perry says, well, we'll go ahead with that. It's just going to be under a different name. So you've got to be very careful to see that. And when he canceled the full 4,000 miles of the Trans-Texas Corridor, that wasn't going to go in for over a 50-year period of time. So he didn't need to have that there. It's, again, incrementalism.
Well, let me tell you what's in the Texas papers. They admit all the major projects they already had slated, they're still building them all. They're just not calling it Trans-Texas Corridor, and they're taking the billboards down.
Well, that's the whole point. And you see, Alex, if we keep exposing that and keep making it clear that the agenda is continuing, people hear, Trans-Texas Corridor is canceled, and they relax. They think we've won a victory. But it's just public relations. It's the same thing Obama is doing right now. I wrote an article in my newsletter, my economic newsletter, Red Alert, redalert.wnd.com. This economic stimulus package that Obama is going around now and holding town hall meetings. He was just in Indiana today with the first. They've had public relations advisors, focus groups. So they say, well, we'll call it economic stimulus because that's going to be more received than if we call it economic recovery. We're getting managed by repackaging these ideas so the people will accept them without really knowing what's in them.
Well, I want to get into Obama with you for the main part of the interview, but specifically, I'm sure you've seen the hundreds of articles in Newsweek, Financial Times of London, last week or a week and a half ago in Market Watch, the Wall Street Journal, saying, yeah, we're setting up a world government. Yeah, we kept it secret from you for your own good. Yeah, it's going to be dictatorial, but that's the only thing that'll fix the economic crisis when it's the very same banking cartels that engineered the crisis. Can you speak? Why are they admitting so much of the New World Order now?
Well, I think they feel they're closer to getting it in place. I mean, take a look. I wrote about Klaus Schwab, who's the head of the Davos Economic Forum. He created it. And he did an interview with CNBC. He said, we're in a transformational crisis. In other words, the plan that Schwab and the Davos Economic Council has is let's use this global economic crisis to have the solution be more globalism. Henry Kissinger wrote an article saying the same thing. He said that Obama needs to now openly push for global governance because there's a global economic crisis. They're openly saying it's time for global structures, economics and politics to be put in place.
Please continue.
Well, just take a look at some of the other issues. I mean, I counted now 9 members of the Trilateral Commission that are working in the Obama administration, including, Susan Rice, the ambassador to the UN, Timothy Gaithner, who is the Secretary of Treasury. Obama said we uniquely need Gaithner. He's the only guy who can solve the problem, even though he didn't pay his income taxes. And I looked at Gaithner's record. Gaithner was head of the Federal Reserve in New York, and he presided over some of the worst economic failures we've ever had. Citibank going broke and needing a cash infusion, Bear Stearns collapsing, Lehman Brothers collapsing. I mean, how do these failures qualify a guy like Gaithner to be the only guy qualified to solve the problem? Well, Gaithner is Council on Foreign Relations. Gaithner is Trilateral Commission. Gaithner is going to push this good bank, bad bank scenario, which is a global solution. That's the Swedish model that was used in Sweden largely to nationalize the banks. And Gaithner is going to be proposing that either later this week or next week when he, essentially is using a global model to nationalize U.S. banks. That's what good bank, bad bank is all about.
Well, it came out during the reports that were in the media for Bretton Woods 2 a few months ago that they're going to create a new global bank. This was in Newsweek with the headline, a new global world bank that sets interest rates, sets the values of currencies, and that we pay our carbon taxes to fund it. And so literally, and also global banking regulations, so through fines and fees, the private banks will create a world government as a solution to the crisis that they created. And so this is the birth of the real New World Order. Can you speak to that?